Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all so much for joining us today for a live HillVets 100 in 100 event. My name is Jenna Doyle, and I am the Director of Programs and Congressional Engagement here at HillVets. And today I have the honor to be joined by an honoree of the HillVets 100 of 2019, Mr. Brian Dix, alongside 6 incredible women musicians. As you can all see, our wonderful faces here on your screen. I think this is the largest panel that we've ever done, and I love that it's mostly women. No offense, Brian, but we gotta represent. So thank you all again to our audience and our panelists, especially for being here today. We're here to discuss their involvement in the Madam Vice President Inaugural Ensemble. So for those of you that haven't checked out the link that we shared around the Ensemble, wow, I can't speak. Is a performance and virtual concert that was made in honor of our current Vice President, Kamala Harris, by an all-volunteer, all-female orchestra hailing from the state of California. So we're going to have a conversation about this ensemble and get into the nitty-gritty of how it was created and the impact of it. So I would like to give our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves and tell everyone out there a little bit about who you are and what you do. So Brian, you are our honoree of the HillVets 100. So can we start with you, and you just give a brief introduction of who you are and how you came to be involved in this wonderful project?
Well, and good afternoon, and thank you very much for having us. My name is Brian Dix. I am a retired United States Marine Major, where I served for nearly 32 years in the Armed Forces. My last role was director of the U.S. Marine Drum and Bugle Corps in Washington, D.C. And that's basically was my landscape to compose and conduct. And I did that for the final 16 years of my career. In retirement from the military, I'm still active as a composer. And I wanted to do this march years ago. I think it was in 2008. I initially toyed with the idea. I was still active duty at the time. And then that wasn't going to work then because the politics had changed. And then when things later changed in 2020 for the last election, we had so many viable female candidates running for the highest office in the land. I said, I got to finish this march. So I completed the march, and it was supposed to have been debuted by the Rhode Island Philharmonic. And then sadly, because of COVID, all performances had been canceled. So I shelved this piece for a second or third time. And then I tried to find an ensemble to play it virtually, and I couldn't do it. So I said, I'm going to do it myself. So I found these wonderful musicians. This is just a handful of the larger swath of 45 musicians in the ensemble. They either live in California or were from California, and they all volunteered to create this wonderful piece of music. And I'm very grateful for that. So this is what I do. I compose and I conduct, and I get to work with such fine musicians as we have on display today.
Thanks, Brian. Gracie, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you came to be involved in the project?
Yes. I had lived in California. I have since relocated. I am in San Antonio, Texas, but I'm still a Californian at heart. I was teaching at a large public university, Palomar College. Actually, it's a college, not a university, and teaching in the music department as well as some art department stuff. A colleague of mine at the college said, oh, there's this wonderful, wonderful group being put together, all lady musicians. And she said, Gracie, you've got to get in on this. And so Brian contacted me and sent me a link, and the rest is history because I was able to be a part of it. I'm an oboist. There were two oboists. So I was one of the oboists. What do I do? How did I get here? I'm a musician, and I love to play. And this was a worthy cause. Didn't need to be paid for it. This was something I was thrilled to be able to volunteer my time and my expertise in playing the oboe for. So now I'm still playing and still doing things, and I'm hoping Brian going to write us another piece so we can do it again.
Thanks, Gracie. I'm sure everyone would love that.
Sure.
Victoria, what about you? Can you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. I'm in San Diego, originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I've done a lot of chamber playing. I'm the artistic director of the City Heights Music School and the president of the Youth Philharmonic Orchestra. And I found out about this composition through Heather Barclay, who played percussion in this piece. She is the conductor of our percussion ensemble, and so she let me know this was going on. Up until then, I had been teaching online and not playing in any chamber ensembles, which I missed dearly. So this was a real challenge to play some great music, and it was fun. It had me practicing, back to my couple hours a day, and just playing with others from around California whom I've never met, and even the composer and conductor I haven't met yet. So it was a fun experience. I don't remember. Is there something else I should add?
No, that's great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Lavette, can you go ahead and introduce yourself? How about you? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I was the one that did it. I am a native of Los Angeles, California. Let's see, I'm trying to think of where to start. I am a freelance musician and teaching artist. I teach for the Young Musicians Foundation and for Angelica Center for Music, Art and Music, both in Los Angeles. And let's see, graduate of University of Iowa. The way that I was introduced to Brian was through a friend that I play with in one of the orchestras. I play for several orchestras here. And she was saying, oh, this is great. This guy has written this piece and he wants, to get all female orchestra together. And I'd been wanting to do a virtual orchestra spot, but I was kind of reticent about doing it. I was like, I don't know if that's going to come out well. But when I start seeing them come out, over the course of this whole COVID pandemic, I was like, that looks like something that would be pretty fun to do. And so let me give this a try and see how it goes. And it went very well. So I was happy to meet Brian and happy to meet all the other ladies that were involved with it. It was really fun. I had a good time with it.
Thanks, Lavette. Laura, can you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. I'm originally from Chicago, but I've been living in the San Francisco Bay Area for about 15 years. And I've played with and continue to play with a lot of different groups at pro and community levels. So I have a lot of contacts. And a friend of mine got word about Brian's project, and she emailed me as well as some other people that ended up playing in the ensemble. And I was thrilled to be a part of it. I was very excited about doing it. And especially since my friends were doing it, and it was such a great, fun piece to play. And the other thing is Brian enlisted Arts Laureate to help with the recording part of it. And I've been part of several of these virtual recordings, and they're not always very satisfying. But this one really was, because it was so professionally done from beginning to end. And it was put together in a very short amount of time. So it's really impressive. And I was going to mention as well that currently I serve as president of the Athena Brass Band, which is an all-female brass band made up of people from all over the world, really, mostly North America, and we perform at festivals.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. And certainly, last but not least, Lee, can you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Hi. Yes, I found out about this opportunity through the Santa Monica Symphony. And I was excited because I hadn't really done any of these virtual performances where you record at home during the pandemic. So I was very happy to jump in, and it was more difficult than I thought. I'd really lost my chops during quarantine, COVID. And so it was a bit of a challenge to get through this wonderful part without losing my lips. So it was a great, yes, it made me practice. Somebody has already mentioned that here today. I'm a private music teacher. I've been teaching online for the past couple of years. I'm really looking forward to teaching in person again soon. I teach bassoon privately as well as guitar, ukulele, and bass guitar. And very much looking forward to getting back in person and teaching and playing with groups in person again.
Thanks, Lee. So awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing your backgrounds and your involvement in the orchestra. It's been amazing to see kind of how you all work come together and formulate this community. And I think something that all of you mentioned and something that we've been experiencing this past year is quarantine or COVID. And you all were filming your pieces virtually. There was no in-person interaction, which is something that people struggle with, especially with an orchestra like this. I'm sure it's a new concept to film virtually and record your pieces individually. So I wanted to ask you all how that really experience was for you in terms of organizing and getting that done, and what was the process like in terms of just being involved in the specifics of the project. So Brian, you were the organizer behind this. Let's start with you. How did you really go about getting this organized in this environment that we're living in?
Well, I relied on a few Marine veterans to help. One of them is a familiar name. Her name is Jennifer Murata, and we served together in Washington, D.C. She was a trumpet player for the President's Own. And I asked her, says, "What do you think?" And she was like, "Yes." She goes, "I'd be more than happy to play with you. I think this is a great idea." He goes, "But I can't help you out." So then I went to the Association California of Symphony Orchestras. It's a wonderful league for orchestras for the entire state of California. And they provided me the tools to how to find individuals and word of mouth. And I think after I had Jennifer in, then it started to spread quickly. And then when Lee was talking about, she heard it from Santa Monica. Well, we had quite a few from there too, because their director, the executive director, Tabitha McGrath, she was the one that was really pushing it, saying, "This is a good idea. If you want to play, come join in on the fun." And the other thing is that I had another Marine veteran, noticing a pattern, who was in charge of the editing process, Christian Emerson from Los Angeles. And his company, Arch Laureate, specializes in these things, in virtual concerts. And it's just absolutely amazing how someone with a cell phone can play with a click track and then boom, have such a wonderful sound, and all the musicians, and I'll say this up front, are very brave for taking this step, because I only knew one person in the entire ensemble, and that was Jen. And then everyone else took a risk at this guy named Brian Dix, Marine, he marched the bugle corps. What is this all about? Why is he writing marches, And because for professional musicians, it's a risk for them, because if the editing was bad, if the music was not good, if it just didn't work out, then that's always on the resume, because it's always on the air. Oh, you were part of that, But no, this was very successful. I mean, look at these 5 wonderful musicians. I mean, it was a cooperation level that I haven't seen since the Marine Corps. This was absolutely delightful. I'm sure they could add more to that.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Lavette, I want to go to you, because you originally said in your introduction that you had some reservations about going into a virtual ensemble like this. So can you talk about what your experience was?
Oh boy, yeah. I just like Brian was just saying, I've seen some horrible ones, and I'm like, I'm never doing that. So I had done some with just like like smaller groups, like with friends, like they have moved to the East Coast, and then I do my part, they do their part, and they're really good at putting things together, and we're all great musicians, so it came together. But it seemed like the larger the group, the more chance for great errors, and it would come out just sounding terrible. But then there were a few that came out pretty good, and for some reason I felt at ease with doing this one. I'm not sure if it was the stars aligned properly that day or something, I don't know, but I just felt like, let me go ahead and try this one, see what happens.
Definitely. Thanks. Gracie, what about you? What was your experience filming your piece and recording virtually?
Well, it was good. This was a good experience. But I was still working at the college too, so I'd been in Zoom for over a year, teaching in Zoom and giving all my music lessons, even now, to students. It's all done in Zoom. And so, and I'm creating click tracks, sending click tracks. So the technology of it wasn't a big jump for me. I was pretty comfortable with it. But the beauty of this one was the camaraderie. Even though I'd never, well, the people from San Diego, some of them I knew or knew of them, but the camaraderie that helped happen, it was almost, not quite, but almost as good as when we actually, if we would have been in the same room and doing it together. It was really well done, very well organized. And I was excited about it. I recorded on an iPhone 12 and external mic and did my recording and my video. I have a little video camera that I used, and I think a lot of people were doing that because we're working from home. If I'd have been at the college, I had all kinds of equipment, but we couldn't go on campus. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience. Like Livette said, I mean, it was really good.
Great, thanks.
So,
I can only imagine I have trouble with Zoom, how difficult recording music can be. So
well,
honestly, props to you all.
Yeah, Zoom is not that's not the program, the platform to record into. But it, it lets us get our job done.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Victoria, anything to add? What was your experience like?
Victoria, sorry. It was great. It was something I could just sink my teeth into, and I had fun the whole time. I mean, working out all the runs and the tricky parts, it was just like the good old days, except I'm all by myself. So, although I would work out those things by myself, of course, anyway. But I'm still finding that it's neat to have like a conversation with the other sections in the orchestra. So being a violinist, I think all of us kind of sit in our sections, but having been on a few other Zooms with Brian and some of the other musicians, I really have loved hearing from the other players. And it's not like, we're alien or something. It's just like, we never have a chance to talk with each other. Or I haven't, maybe that's just me, but it was fun. It fed my obsessive compulsive nature, trying to get that video just right. And it was different playing along with the click track, obviously, but it forced you to be really precise, or as precise as could be. So I enjoyed it. And I have all sorts of admiration for people who can compile these videos, because I've tried doing it on a very small scale, and it's a lot of work. So thank you, Brian.
And Victoria was the one who took the lead. I didn't have any principal chairs, but she took the lead and said, oh, we need to change these bowings. She's the reason why the string parts, had 8 or 9 revisions, because she played through it, and then I have to create new parts and adjust the score. And then we had that throughout. There was key individuals, and Laura Shea Clark was that the trumpet said, okay, we're going to do this. This is how our articulations are going to go. Boom, da boom, da boom, da boom, da boom. And they, like I said, it was very Marine-like. I didn't have to do much at all. They just took charge.
I love that. Thanks. Lee, anything to add on your experience?
Well, of course, all my musical experience gets funneled into teaching. So it was a great experience for me, because I've been working with students online over Zoom who had to record parts, bassoon students, for their bands. And so this was like, me learning by experience by having to record a part virtually, like they were doing for their own bands. So, I could use my experience with this, give them a little bit of advice. How do you approach a part? It really has to be done in one take. You can't stitch bits together. It doesn't work for this sort of thing. So you really have to have your part very well prepared, know everything, your page turns, your breaths, as a wind player, all that sort of stuff. So it was useful, and it was very good. Like I said, good exercise for me. and realized how far I had lost my endurance from not playing with, not rehearsing with groups. They make me practice, as you can see. We must practice to keep our chops in good shape. So great, awesome experience.
Thanks, Lee. And Laura, what about you? What was filming and recording like for you?
Well, it helped that I had experience with several other projects, but this was a whole level, many levels beyond that. It was much more satisfying. And Brian right away set up a Facebook group for us so we could get to know each other that way. We had a couple of Zoom sessions. And of course, I knew a bunch of people. I've played with Jennifer Murata once before. She played with Athena, but I sat in a different row. So it was nice I felt like we really got to do something together, even though it was virtually. And I love the collaboration that way, working out how to do the parts and all the fine tuning details. One other thing I was going to mention around the time everything was due, Brian had a couple of string players drop out. And he put the word out, hey, do you know anybody? And I was able to get a few more of my friends in the group, a few string players. And they're all such lovely, lovely people and fantastic players that I was just thrilled. That was Dawn Harms and Vida Yee and Madeline Graham. So this is going to be a special memory for me for a very long time and something I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Well, I love that each of you have, different experiences with the formulation of it. And from an outsider, hearing what those experiences like and how it really built the final product, I think is so fascinating. So we really appreciate your insight. So something else I wanted to chat about, and something that we mentioned, obviously, when we opened the panel, was the fact that this ensemble is all female. Again, so sorry, Brian, besides you. And so I wanted to ask each of you what that was like. Especially honoring our first female vice president. What does that mean to you in terms of gathering as a woman group and honoring our first woman vice president? Victoria, you want to start us off?
Sure. It was meaningful. It still is meaningful. I mean, to feel that I'm part of this, and definitely historical. So yeah, just the two different sides of it, honoring and recognizing somebody who's achieved such a high level in politics, and also just coming together and playing with women, especially in orchestras. I think it's been very male dominated for a long time, and that's just the way it's been. But this is a wonderful, just kind of emphasis or exclamation point on how important we are, and talented, and
definitely
enjoyable it is to play together.
Yeah, great, thank you. Lavette, what about you? What did this project mean to you? You're on mute again.
I'm sorry, I keep muting myself.
No, you're totally fine. It happens.
That was another reason why I wanted to go ahead and try this one, was because of why it was being done. And I'm like, that is a really cool idea. We have our first woman in such a high office, and then a woman of color on top of that. So we got like two aspects of our overall community being recognized and represented in that fashion. So I was like, this is going to be epic. I was like going, yeah, please be a good one the whole time. And it came out so well, and so much, notoriety has been, like Brian was saying, from people seeing it, and a lot of compliments, from my friends. People I don't even know were like, oh, I saw you in, this orchestra. That was so great. That was so awesome that, we were able to do that for the vice president. And yeah, I thought this was like just a really epic opportunity to be a part of.
Definitely epic. I love that word and that idea.
Yeah.
Lee, what about you? What was this project, or what did this project mean to you?
Well, of course, I would may have been a little reticent, like Levette, if if there hadn't been a armed services connection. A Marine, so I'm an Army veteran myself. I trained at the Armed Forces School of Music, and I feel an affinity with all naval and Marine musicians, and so I couldn't say no to that. And of course, it being for Madam Vice President was a big incentive as well, and also because of this situation. And I remembered back, this was almost like revenge for me, because I remember back when I was in college, and someone came to our college ensemble in New Orleans, where I was at Loyola University, and said, "Oh, we need musicians for the orchestra in Interview with a Vampire." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that'll be cool. I get to be an extra." Oh, men only, by the way. Oh, wow. There were no women in orchestras back in them days. So sorry, you can't be in the movie, but so we'll take the male bassoonist, but we can't take you. So, haha.
Karma, right?
Now I get to be in an all-female ensemble. So
I love that. Thank you. Gracie, anything to add?
Well, it was great for me because I've never been in an all-female group before. So I thought, well, that'll be fun. That'll be really cool. So that part was really exciting for me. And just the whole project. I mean, it was just, we were all starving for interaction and playing our instruments. So it just was good. It was good. And the female part just was icing.
Definitely. And Laura, what about you? Anything to add?
I was thrilled that Kamala Harris was going to be our vice president. The fact that she's from California, a woman of color, the first female vice president, and a terrific leader. So I was excited about that aspect as well. I have played with the Athena brass band for, I think it's been 15 years. I'm a founding member, and there's a synergy that you get when it's all female, something that you haven't had a chance to do before, where maybe there was some discrimination, or the men took more of a lead role, and here you are, just ladies, showing what you can do. I also go to the International Women's Brass Conference that's held every couple of years, and that's another very synergistic experience. And this was the same thing. I just loved every aspect of it.
Definitely. Thanks, Laura. And Brian, our male perspective, what did this project mean to you to be able to put all women together in honor of a woman vice president?
It was the right thing to do. It really was. And even though COVID stifled performances, this turned out far better than if it was debuted by another symphony orchestra. This is the right thing to do. It was homegrown. And, I think people enjoy home cooking as opposed to store-bought any day. And this was absolutely 100% internal, and it had so much spirit and life to it. I wouldn't change a thing, and I wouldn't have done it any other way. I wish I thought of this earlier.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. So I want to turn to one specific kind of aspect of this that Lee, you just mentioned, is your military experience. So you and Brian are both veterans, and you're both veterans in the performing arts arena. So I wanted to touch on this to you two specifically and ask you how your military experience kind of shaped your career into the performing arts arena. As I'm sure HillVets is a veteran-focused nonprofit, so I'm sure a lot of our audience are veterans or service members or supporters. So I wanted to make sure we touched on this. So you can talk. So excuse me. Wow. Can you talk a little bit about your military experience and how it shaped your career in the arts? Lee, if you want to start us off.
Sure. Yes, I went into the Army after college, which does happen sometimes. Very often, people will join the Army in order to pay for college. I already had my degree, so I went in with a degree in music education. And I just wanted, before I got too old, I just wanted to have the Army experience because I had heard a little bit about it from other Army musicians. Mm-hmm. So I went in specifically as a musician, Army bassoon player, 02 kilo. I don't even know if that's a MOS anymore. But yes, now college prepared me for the Army, and the Army sort of even prepared me even more for all the discipline. I think being a musician and all the skills you learn as a soldier are pretty similar. You've got to keep your equipment in good working order. You've got to have all your gear, the right tools for the job. So I was already fairly organized, fairly disciplined person, but I think the Army band, and I was with the 1st Cavalry Division Band at Fort Hood, was a great experience, and I really enjoyed it as a job.
Awesome. Thanks, Lee. And Brian, anything to add on your military experience and how that really led to you to success in your performing arts career?
Well, I'll tell you what, being in the Marines, I was extremely spoiled. It's because, I was the director of a unit in Washington, D.C., and I always came up with ideas, and they were always broad strokes. But I had Marines at all levels to handle all the small details to make sure that the larger picture was always, the mission was always accomplished. For something like this, I had to take the job of everyone else. And I had to have that Marine Corps back to basics, checklist mentality. And I went down the line of everything that needed to be done. And the most important thing was to make sure that all of the musicians had understood the intent of the piece, and they understood each other. And whether you're working in a platoon or a fire team or you're a woodwind ensemble, it's the same thing. You understand what the mission is or what you want to accomplish, and know each other the best way you can, how well you can work and integrate. That's the idea of an ensemble, a musical ensemble. That's a military unit. And every branch of the armed forces, recruits graduate to the beat of the drum. So there's an appreciation for the arts. The only thing I've done that was extended more, and this time with strings and oboes and trumpets.
Definitely. Thanks, Brian. It really is true how your military experience can allow for you to plant a career of success. So I love that you were able to kind of apply that to your career. So thank you both for sharing that. So I want to make a special comment to our audience out there. If you have questions or comments for our panelists before we start to wrap up, feel free to drop those in the comments below on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, and we will try and get to them. But I want to close by moving into a question that kind of allows for you to reflect on your experience with this and ask each of you, what do you hope people who watch the ensemble, what do you hope they take away from it? Laura, you want to start us off?
Well, I hope they would be inspired, females in particular, that we can pull something like this off together. It's a wonderful, uplifting march, so I hope they just enjoy listening to it and helps them feel better just in general. It has a hopeful spirit to it and a lot of joy. So those are my thoughts.
Definitely. Thanks. Gracie, what about you? Any reflections on your experience or takeaways for the audience?
Well, I would do it again in a blink of an eye. It was it was just that much fun. And what I would hope, I'll ditto Lauren, is that I hope people, our audiences, are moved by the beauty of the music and the intent behind it, and to honor our first ever woman in that position that she's in. And I hope that they would understand that each one of the ladies that were playing, I think I could probably say 100% of us felt that we were doing something that had never been done before, and that we were all thrilled to be a part of it.
Definitely. Thanks, Gracie. And Lavette, what do you hope people watching take away from the ensemble?
I hope they got a sense of celebration from it, celebrating our VP, and also come away from it with a sense of being able to accomplish whatever they want in their lives, whether it be career or any other aspects of their, whatever they're doing with their existence.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
And Lee, what about you? Any takeaways or reflections?
this video, as like I said, very, very well done. I hope there are young women or anyone of any gender expression watching this video and thinking, oh, I can play any of these instruments. You know, I'm not limited because I identify as female. I don't have to play this instrument, or you know, they are all available to me.
Mhm.
And that's one thing I really enjoy watching this video.
Definitely. Thanks. And Victoria, what about you? Takeaways to the audience?
I agree with everything that was just said. And I think that's a really cool thing what Lee just pointed out, and seeing women play all these different instruments and that anything is accessible to you. And I agree, it's a wonderful celebration, and there are no words to it, so that you just interpret it as you know, would to celebrate America, to celebrate the United States. And yeah, it was wonderful to share that sense of unity.
Awesome. Thank you. So it looks like we actually have a question from a viewer on LinkedIn, who is Ben Hightower, asking, is there another project that is in the works? Brian, I think that is maybe directed towards you. So if you want to maybe take that.
Well, I'm constantly doing a lot of new works, and I do have another piece that would be perfect for this ensemble if I put together. But the thing is that it's going to be a little more extensive, and these women, all 45 of them volunteered. And it's my intent that if I do another piece, that they get paid like every other professional.
Mm-hmm.
So, to the person who asked the question, I'm doing my best. And if I can get a sponsor, we're going to get another piece out. And I want to use the same ensemble.
That's great to hear. And hopefully we look forward to something new coming out from all of you, and something that, again, hopefully this is not the last piece or ensemble that that honors a woman vice president. Hopefully, maybe next time it'll be a woman president, but, you know, hopefully not the last, honoring our women in leadership. So I want to thank you all for joining us today, and to our audience at home who tuned in. We are going to close by actually sharing the ensemble with everyone. So stick around if you have not had a chance to watch the ensemble. We are going to play that for you now live. And again, thank you all so much for tuning in, and a special thank you to our panelists for being here today. I've enjoyed our conversation. I hope everyone at home has too as well. So thank you all. Just some technical difficulties behind the scene. We're getting the sound all ready for everyone out there. So
it's all about live performance.
Yeah.
Like,
this is why I'm like I can't imagine how recording these pieces work, because like sound, microphones, like so many moving pieces. So there's never anything right.
Yeah, we even had
that's one thing that would never happen live. No sound coming out.
True. Very good point. All right, let's see if we got air. All right, and that's it. Thanks,
That was
everyone,
cool.
for tuning in.
Yay.
And we appreciate you all being here and sticking around. And we hope to see you all soon in person. So thank you all.
Okay.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.